Pride Month, and this year issues facing the LGBTQ+ community have been compounded by the pandemic, as well as a wave of legislation targeting transgender youth.
Let's bring in now to discuss award-winning writer and transgender activist Raquel Willis. Raquel, so good to have you here with us. And let's start with what Robach was just mentioned here. This wave of legislation is targeting transgender youth. This is really a record-setting year when it comes to this type of anti-trans legislation. What impact? Maybe we're not seeing it immediately. It might have an emotional impact. What is going to be the long-term impact, you think, of what we're seeing across the country?
Hi, well, good afternoon. I think what folks who are trying to push this anti-trans legislation are trying to have be the long-term impacts are less people being comfortable expressing who they fully are, less trans youth and non-binary youth being comfortable in themselves. And of course, I think the other impacts that would come from that are increased psychological distress, increased isolation and suicidal ideation. But I'm here to tell everyone that we have a powerful movement of trans elders, adults, and youth who are coming together to fight back all of that.
And speaking to that movement, we actually heard from President Biden himself earlier this year. He said this to the transgender community, quote, "The president has your back." Do you believe his actions have reflected that sentiment? Do you feel like he has your back? And what more should he be doing?
Well, it has definitely been a shift from the last presidential administration to have a president specifically speak affirming words to the trans community. But of course, we need more support. I mean, we need more lawmakers, leaders, companies, corporations coming out in support of trans youth and trans athletes and trans women who are most under attack by this legislation. And of course, I think the president can also go further and really lean into his commitments. Some of the commitments he made on the trail were that he would move more resources to community-led efforts, and we need to see that.
Yeah, Raquel, you just mentioned there some companies, corporations we see oftentimes being supportive. We see big celebrations during Pride Month. What happens next month, the month after that, and the month after that? Is there a consistent drumbeat of support and ramping up of support, or or do we just have, in your opinion, sometimes there's so much focus on this 1 month and then it's not consistent through the year?
Well, I think we saw last year with the Black Square debacle, of course, in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd, that there really were a lot of companies and even people who were kind of talking the talk, but not necessarily walking the walk or moving the move. And so we definitely need people to understand that LGBTQ+ folks are here all year round. And so when these anti-trans legislation pieces were coming up in the news, we needed that support even then, back in January, at the beginning of these sessions. And so people have to understand that this is a lifelong commitment to social justice, not just when we have these tentpole months and days.
And you've talked about, Raquel, inclusive activism. Tell us what that means, and especially why it's so important right now.
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to considering who we are, when I think about activism, it's important for me to understand that we all have some type of privilege or some type of oppression. There is no binary here. And so we can all understand what it means to be locked out of opportunity. And I think we have to do work that will leave the door open just a bit wider for the next folks to come through. And so for me, when I'm talking about Black liberation or trans liberation, it's all about liberating everyone, because when we liberate those who are the most marginalized, everyone benefits from that.
That is a very beautiful way to take a look at that. This is about everyone and about rights for everyone. Raquel Willis, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today and all that you're doing.
Of course. Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.